Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Napoleon Total, and today we're doing some Axis non-premiums for Axis Berlin. We're doing the squad history of the non-premiums. So let's get started. And like I said in my premium section, a lot of this history we don't really know about. So you would just see me saying that there's not a lot of information about this unit, because there seriously isn't. Like, most of the Volkssturm units, if not all of them, have literally no information. But that said, let's get started with the video, and let's all learn some history. The first unit that we have up is the 2nd Volkssturm Company of the 3rd/503 Volkssturm Battalion. Literally, you cannot search up any information about this unit, but that said, if you want to learn about the Volkssturm, go to Axis Premiums for Berlin, of course, and the very first Volkssturm unit, which, by the way, is the 1st Volkssturm Company of the 3-115 Stelldatz Battalion. You will see the history of the Volkssturm, but that's it for this unit. Next, we have the 309 Volkssturm Battalion of the 1st Volkssturm Company. Once again, we do not know anything about this Volkssturm Company because we don't know. It was not organized in terms of army sense, and it was organized by party, so even less information is known about that. But that said, let's move on to the next one. Next, we have the 503rd Heavy Panzer Battalion of the 11th Panzer Division. For those that are wondering what the heck is the 11th Panzer Division, and since you have not heard of that, that's alright, considering the fact that that is not the official name in the German army. The official name of the 11th Panzergrenadier Division is also known as the 11th SS Panzergrenadier Division Nordland. And as the name suggests, this unit was made of Scandinavian volunteers and was formed on March 1943. The Nordland's 2 Panzergrenadier Divisions were also given titles that reference to the location, one being Nord from Norway and the other being Danmark from Denmark. Both regiments were additional men made from Hungary, and its formation in Germany had the division attached to the 3rd Germanic SS Panzer Corps under the division of Steiner. Felix Steiner. Yes, that Steiner. And was moved to Croatia, where the SS Volunteer Legion Netherlands was attached to it. The division began combat operations against the Yugoslav partisans in September of 1943, and in mid-October 1943, the division was then burned and looted several Serbian villages in the Bajak region of Croatia, which helped organize the local Kalabrist Chechnik militia. The division was then, along with the rest of the 3rd SS Panzer Corps, arrived in the front near Leningrad and was put to work against the Soviet Red Army, aimed at breaking the German encirclement of the city. The Red Army forced Nordland to withdraw from Oldenbrow, and on 14th of January 1944, the Soviet Pleshte-Besto-Rossa offensive succeeded in collapsing the German front. Also, the follow Königsbrau offensive pushed the German forces even further to the city of Narvov in the northeastern Estonia, now part of the new defensive line. On the 27th of January 1944, the Nordland fought with the 20th Waffen-SS Panzergrenadier Division, the 1st Estonian, and elements of the Große Deutschland in the Battle of the Tannenberg Line. It was then ordered to retreat into the Courland Pocket, and from the late October to December of 1944, the Nordland remained in that pocket. By early December, the division's strength was down to 9,000 men. In January of 1944, the division was ordered to the Baltic port in Ledau. It was then evacuated by sea, and on the 16th of April, the division was ordered to defend Berlin. Despite the recent replenishments, the division was still under strength, and from 17th to 20th of April, the division was involved in combat along all fronts of the city of Berlin. On 24th of April, the Soviet main assault was towards the Promskal Park area, where the rest of the Pioneer Division and the remaining tanks of the Panzer Division Panzer Battalion was defending. Although the attack was then counterattacked and received heavy losses, the unit halted the enemy advance. Literally, that's all we know about that attack. However, by midday, the 5th Shock Army was able to attack again, and later another counterattack by 3 assault guns was stopped after A Soviet soldier captured 3 German Panzerfaust and destroyed them all. What? This legit sounds like propaganda stories. An evening of 24th of April, from 320 to 330 French troops from the SS Division Charlemagne arrived in Berlin, along with detour to evade Soviet advance columns. On the 25th of April, Königbug was appointed the commander of the Berlin Defense Sector C, which included Nordland. Zyga was then relieved as the command of the division earlier in the day. The group of French SS troops, now known as Storm Battalion Charlemagne, was then attached to Nordland. The arrival of the French boosted the division's morale and the unit size after it was being decimated by the Soviet Red Army. They reached roughly about a battalion in total strength. By 26th of April, the Kulduk was heavily penetrated by Soviet combat groups, and Coburg then decided to fall back to Sector C around Hermannsplatz. Therefore, Nordland and Charlemagne were then sent back. Nordland then moved its headquarters to an opera house, and during this time, the Charlemagne destroyed 14 Soviet tanks with Panzerfaust. Like, literally some of these events are either fictitious or made up. That said, we are going to be covering the SS Charlemagne later. During the process, the Nordland unit, with the remaining 8 Tiger tanks and several assault guns, were ordered to take up positions in the Taugrad because of the 2 divisions of Welding. 56th Panzer Corps would slow down the Soviet advance, which could not stop it. So therefore, the Nordland was then to reinforce the 56th Panzer Corps. The Soviet forces advanced into Berlin following a pattern of mass shelling, followed by assaults using house-to-house clearings from each house with close tank supports, with artillery support, and on the 27th of April, the remnants of the Nordland was then pushed back into the Central Government District and Citadel Sector in Defense Zone Z. The commander-in-chief of the salient his headquarters was total carnage, and then the troops of the division of the district were then pushed back into the Reichstag and the Reichschancellery. On the 30th of April, after receiving news of Hitler's suicide, orders were issued for those who could not link out for those who could not link were to do breakout attempts prior to the event of Hitler's death. There was no such idea, so the breakout of the Reichschancellery was only started at 2300 hours on May 1st, when the main groups were attempted to head northwest, and then fierce fighting all around, especially in the bridge area. In that area, what's left of the division was destroyed by Soviet artillery and anti-tank guns. Nordland's last tank was knocked out in the attempt to cross the bridge. Several larger small groups reached the Americans at the elbow of West Bank, but most, including the commander of the group, was not successful. Most were killed in the fighting or taken prisoners after they surrendered to Soviet troops. On May the 2nd, hostilities ended with Welding, commander of the Berlin defense area, officially surrendering to Soviet troops. That is all it for the history of the Nordland. Honestly, a pretty good unit, but yeah, let's move on to the next one. After the Nordland, we have the 15th Fusilier Brigade Battalion of the 15th Grenadier Division. This is also known, the 15th Grenadier Division is also known as the 15th SS Waffen-SS Grenadier Division, which is also known as the Latvian Division. The 15th SS Latvian Division was formed in early of 1943 from the Latvian Legion, like its sister division, the 19th Waffen-SS Division, the 19th SS Latvian. It was comprised of Latvian SS units, which formed the Latvian police battalions in Latvia. Honestly, that shouldn't be too hard. In February of 1943, that division was then formed, freed to receive the numerical designation 15. The Legion was then renamed the Leichtschwert SS Freiwillige Brigade. with the numerical designation soon after. Unlawful conscription of the Latvians was used by the Germans to be literally used by Alfred Rosenberg, who was head of the Reich Ministry of Occupied Eastern Territories, and then this was followed by conscriptory labor, which was decreed on the 19th of December 1941, which was carried out by the Department of Labor of the Latvian Self-Administration, which the 15th Latvian was to oversee. The 15th Latvian, along with the 19th Latvian, both were SS divisions, was formed the Latvian Legion. The 15th Latvian was then sent into chaos in the collapse of the Eastern Front, and lost much of its manpower fighting in the districts surrounding Leningrad. And on September 1944, the surviving elements of the division was sent by boat to Danzig. The division fought in Pomeranian wall defense and then retreated from Pomerania and to Germany and to Berlin. Part of the division, with a total of 824 men, under Waffen-SS Standardführer Felix Wunsten, surrendered on the 27th of April 1945 to the advancing Americans at Grotlik near the Elbe River. Other elements of the division, amounting to approximately 4,500 men, surrendered to the Americans once again on the 2nd of May 1945. Nothing much is known about its performance in Berlin, but yeah, still a pretty interesting unit, and pretty interesting unit overall for the SS and the Latvians. At this point, I think it's a good time to explain why so many people believe, so many people don't get about the German army in World War II. The idea is that Germans would conscript foreign volunteers into their army, especially the SS. Now, you might be thinking because of the German race theory, that wouldn't really work, considering they would recruit Muslims to fight against the Russians, and they would recruit anyone to fight against the Russians. But yes, that is true, and that the Germans would recruit Muslims. They will also recruit Latvians, Swedes, Finns, Germans, Hungarians, Bulgarians, the list just goes on. Even having a British SS unit, but yeah. For those that are wondering, a fun fact about the Latvian division is that the Latvian division were allowed, Latvia was allowed to have 2 SS Panzer Division because of the critical race theory that, the Nazis employed. Honestly, I can do an entire episode about that, but I'm not because I don't believe in it. And yeah, the thing is crazy. But that's it, let's just move on to the next one. Next, we have the 5th Pioneer Battalion of the 5th Light Infantry Division. The division was established during the course of the enlargement of the Reichswehr in October of 1934, with the camouflage designation Commander of Ulm on the 15th of October 1935. It was renamed the 5th Infantry Division. The Infantry Division staff was formed from the previous staff of Infantry Leader 5, which is a big question mark because not all the documents from the Reichswehr were transparent. The division did not take part in the invasion of Poland, but moved to the West Wall at the end of August. Parts of the division were already in the maneuver on the Upper Rhine at this time. Subsequently, the division took part in the Western Campaign in 1940 as part of the Second Army. Until March of 1941, the division remained in France as an occupying force. In April of 1941, the division moved to East Prussia and took part in the attack of the Soviet Union in June. She fought her way up to Vyazma in the corps group from Sidlitz. After receiving heavy losses, she was then transferred to France for 2 months to replenish herself, re-equip with low mountain ranges, and renamed the 5th Light Infantry Division. In January 1942, the 5th Light Division returned to the Eastern Front, which she took part in Operation Buchenschlag to liberate German troops trapped in the Demyansk corridor and occupy position in Slava Russia until the end of 1943. In July 1942, at this time, the division was fighting south of Izmails, and the division was reorganized once again into the Jaeger Division and renamed the 5th Jaeger Division. At the beginning of 1944, the division moved to the Vitebsk pocket, and in March 1944, the division, in conjunction with the 56th Panzer Corps under General Holbach, joined the 5th Panzer Division and the 131st Infantry Division in the relief attack on Crowell. This followed by a heavy defensive battle in the areas around Corwell and the Premier area, which as well as retreating battles across the Bug, Newell to East Prussia. And in 1945 were the defensive battles in East Prussia and the retreat to the Vistula and the Oder. After the Battle of the Zilal Heights, she she retreated to the Elbe. Following the division, its last command post was at Sleipzig near Damblau. It was then blown up on the 2nd of May near Woodbreg. The Intelligence and Reconnaissance Department crossed the Elbe and went into American captivity. After a breakout attempt of the remaining troops, which failed, the remaining troops surrendered to the Americans on the night of the 3rd of May in Leuthen north of Wittenberg. That is it for the 5th Pioneer Battalion of the 5th Light Infantry or 5th Jaeger Division. Honestly, not a lot is known about what happened in Berlin, except for that they were trapped, and after that point they just left and joined the Americans. I mean, surrendered to the Americans. Next we have 15th Squadron of JG-52, also known as Jagdgeschwader 52. All you have to do is go to Axis Moscow Premiums and look at the second Squadron of JG-52. After that, which JG-52 is going to be simplified. After JG-52, we have the 3rd Volkssturm Company of the Volkssturm Pioneer Battalion. Now, once again, since this is a Volkssturm unit, we do not have much history about it. If you want to learn more about the Volkssturm, I highly suggest you to go to Axis Berlin Premiums and watch the segment of the 1st Volkssturm Company of the 3rd 115 Soldat's Company. That is just going to explain the Volkssturm for you. And let's move on to the 57th Grenadier Regiment of the 33rd Grenadier Division. For those that do not know what the 33rd Grenadier Division, it is also goes by the name of the 33rd SS Grenadier Division Charlemagne. Sounds familiar? The Legion of French Volunteers Against Bolshevism, LVF, was a unit of the German Army Wehrmacht formed after the German invasion of the Soviet Union. This and another unit were going to be later formed into the 33rd Panzer Grenadier Division Charlemagne. To be exact, it's 33rd SS Grenadier Division Charlemagne. I do not know why. Oh, actually, no, I do know why Enlisted removed the SS from their name. In July of 1941, this LVF, the Legion of Volunteers of France against Bolshevism, was made up of far-right political factions within Vichy France, the puppet regime of France. Honestly, that's my best explanation. Although its supporters were extremely supportive of Nazi ideology and close collaboration of Nazi Germany, and not the Vichy regime, the German authorities remained skeptical of incorporating French troops and limited the unit's size significantly. Furthermore, it was only succeeded in including 5,800 recruits between 1941 and its disbandment in 1944, so this unit was not large. It was also kept at long's length by the Vichy regime, who also didn't like the idea of being more close to the Nazis than their own regime. Literally, what the heck. The LVF participated in the Battle of Moscow in November to December. It suffered heavy losses and performed poorly in combat. It was also available at the Battle of Borodino, not that Battle of Borodino in 1812, but the Battle of Borodino in 1941. For its existence, it was combined with so-called bandit fighting operations against partisans behind the German front line occupied in Belarus and Ukraine. The Tricolor was formed in the Tricolor Legion. The Legion Tricolor was formed in France with Vichy support and later absorbed into the LVF. In early 1944, this unit once again took part in security operations, and in June of 1944, following the collapse of the Army Group Center during the Russian summer offensive Operation Migration, the LVF was attached to the 4th SS Police Regiment. Then we have the SS Volunteer Sturm Brigade France, SS Windenburg Sturmpanzer Frankenreich. This unit and the unit that we just did, the LVF, would later once again form 33rd SS Division Charlemagne. This SS Volunteer Sturm Brigade France was formed in July of 1943 as the first French formation permitted within the SS. This was led by, SS Openbrückenführer Paul-Marie Glomet Dupriot, who served in the French Foreign Legion. It was attached to 300 applicants to the French German-occupied territory, of whom were existing members of the collaborative paramilitary service or university students. Most of the official requirements were that the recruits has to be free of Jewish blood, between 20 to 25 years old. Approximately 1,600 men of the Sturm Brigade was attached to the 18th SS Panzergrenadier Division, Horst Wessel, and then sent to Galicia on the Eastern Front. In the heavy fighting against the Red Army, 7 officers and 130 men were killed, while 8 officers and 161 men were wounded. The LVF and the Brigade Frankenreich were disbanded in September 1944 after the aftermath of the Allied invasion of France. These soldiers were then formed into a new unit called the Waffen-SS Grenadier Brigade, also known as the Charlemagne, hence the name 33rd SS Grenadier Battalion, 33rd SS Grenadier Division, Charlemagne. My god, I'm mixing up the words. Following them, French collaborators leaving the Allied areas were also then put into the SS Division. SS Brigade Gruppenführer SS Brigade Führer Gustav Glaben was appointed to command the division. The 2 infantry regiments were designated as the 57th and the 58th. Members of the LVF were the nucleus of the former, and the Sturm Brigade followed in the core of the latter. In February of 1945, the unit was officially upgraded to a division and renamed the SS Division Charlemagne. At its time, it only had a strength of about 7,340. The division was then sent to fight the Red Army in Poland, but on the 25th of February, it was attacked at Hamstein in Pomerania by troops of the First Soviet Belarusian Front. The Soviet forces split the French into 3 pockets. One group was destroyed by Soviet artillery, another tried to fight its way westwards, but most of the men were killed. A third group, commanded by Stromberg, survived. It was then evacuated from the coast by the German Navy to Denmark and later sent to Neustein for refitting. By early April 1945, Kronberg commanded only about 700 men organized into a single infantry regiment of 2 battalions, battalions 57, 58. 1 heavy support battalion without equipment, and yeah, he then had to release 400 men to serve in a construction battalion, and the remaining men, 350 in total, were then chosen to go to Berlin. Honestly, like, at this point, it was only a division on paper. 350 men is not anything that you will call a division. Not even by Italian standards. For those that are wondering why am I picking on the Italians, it's because the Italians used a smaller regiment system, a division system, but even by Italian standards, this army will not fit in, not by any chance. Oof, let's move on. On the 23rd of April, the Reichschancellor in Berlin ordered Kronsberg to proceed to the capital with his men, who were reorganized as the Sturm Battalion Charlemagne, which is better than being called the the SS Division Charlemagne. As the men assembled in the Kronenblock, a black Mercedes advanced towards their position. As the car went past, the men from the SS saluted the Mercedes. Why is this important? Because in the Mercedes, a man named Heinrich Himmler just came from a private meeting from Count Volker Bernadotte, a Swedish consultant in Leipzig, to have a surrender offer to the Western Allies. Yes, Himmler wanted to make deals with the Western Allies. Apparently that did not last long, because of Hitler and because the Allies rejected. The SS men were then disappointed that the wonderful Himmler did not stop and salute them back, apparently. He just sped off, and that's it for them. Between 320 to 330 troops arrived in Berlin from the French on the 24th of April after a long detour to advance to literally try not to get caught by the Red Army. On the 25th of April, Kohlberg was appointed commander of the Defense Sector C, which included the SS Division Nordland. Sounds familiar? Yeah. Charlemagne was then attached to Nordland, whose 2 regiments had been decimated in fighting. Both roughly equaled a battalion, and the French walked from east to west Berlin to a brewery named Hermannplatz. After fighting the Hitler Youth unit with Soviet tanks, which belonged to the advance guard at the Tonbahn airport, supported by Tiger IIs and the 1st SS Panzer Battalion, men of the Charlemagne took part in the counterattack against the Soviets on the 26th of April. The counterattack ran into an ambush by Soviet troops using a captured German Panzer tank. That regiment lost half its strength after all of its available troops, and didn't have to defend a town hall. After that, they lost that town hall and they had to fall back to Sector C against Hermannplatz. Kuhnberg, who then moved his headquarters into the Opera House, and then the entire SS Division Nordland withdrew to Kernenplatz. The French and Hitler Youth were acting as the rear guard. The French, and with some Hitler Youth, destroyed 14 Soviet tanks, 1 machine gun position, held the bridge against the Soviet forces for 48 hours. I honestly do not know which part of this is propaganda, but I'm choosing to believe it. The Soviet advance from Berlin followed a pattern of massive shelling, followed by assaults using a house-to-house clearing battle with about 80 men each, 1 tank escort and close air support, and on the 27th of April, the remnants of the Nordland were pushed back into the central government district Citadel corridor in Defense Sector Z. After Kohlberg's Nordland headquarters was then smashed. Heavy fighting was very heavy, yeah. By 28th of April, 108 Soviet tanks have been destroyed in the southwest of Berlin by the French. What the heck? Honestly, this sounds more like propaganda. On the 27th of April, the Red Army started a full-scale offensive in the central sector. Charlemagne was in the center of the battle zone around the Reichschancellorate. Here are some instances of the Charlemagne in combat. Quote, 1 French SS man, Eugene Valot, had destroyed 2 tanks in Molsbein, claimed to have destroyed 6 more in the Führer bunker. He was awarded the Knight's Cross by Kohlberg on the 29th of April. He was then killed 3 days later by a Soviet Red Army sniper. 2nd Lieutenant Roger Albert Berndt destroyed 4 Soviet tanks by Panzerfaust on the 29th of April 1945. He was then awarded the Iron Cross First Class by Kohlberg. Kohlberg being obviously the unit's commander. On the 30th of April, the last defenders of the area and the bunker complex were mainly made up of Frenchmen of the SS Division Charlemagne, others being the Waffen-SS men from Nordland, Latvia, and Spanish units. A group of French SS remained in the bunker until the early morning of the 2nd of May. By evening of 30th of April, the SS men had destroyed another 21 Soviet tanks, and on the night of the 1st of May, Kohlberg told his men to split up into smaller groups and attempt a breakout. Reduced to approximately 30 men, the French SS division surrendered to Potsdam rail station to the Red Army. You heard that right! Some of the last remaining troops in the Führer bunker to guard Adolf Hitler were actually French troops. How ironic. After escaping out of Berlin, a small remainder of the Charlemagne, for those that could escape out of Berlin, the Charlemagne surrendered to the French forces at Bas-les-Camargue and Wazal. Most of the Frenchmen returned to the Soviet army, and here is what happened to the Frenchmen after the war. 12 were then returned to the French authorities by the U.S. Army. They would be receiving the death penalty for treason and executed. The rest who made it to France were apprehended and sent to Allied prisons and camps. So that is it for the 33rd SS Grenadier Division, Charlemagne. After the 33rd Grenadier Division, Charlemagne, we have the 25th Panzer Parachute Regiment of the 9th Parachute Division. The 9th Parachute Division was formed on the December of 1944 with many Luftwaffe personnel for combat duties of land, not air. The name Parachute was given considering the fact that they were from the Air Force, and it was not actually a parachute division. Parachute training had actually ceased to exist by mid-1944, and by the time the new parachute units were ordinary infantry under the Air Force command. So these guys legit did not have any land experience, and on January 1945, 2 of the 9th Parachutes Battalion were encircled by the 1st Belarusian Front in Breslau. Talk about having no experience, where they were promptly destroyed. In the Battle of the Zielau Heights, the 9th Division was then positioned between Zielau Heights and Brugwa. They were receiving the full force of the 1st for the first day of the artillery bombardment by Marshal Zhukov's 1st Belarusian Front on the 16th of April. Under this heavy bombardment, the 9th Division buckled. It was rallied on the morning of the 17th of April when it was given some armored support, but it was then collapsed shortly afterward. The SS Northland Division rounded up the remaining elements of the 9th Division and managed to have a temporary successful counterattack. By 19th of April, the remnants of the 9th Division, along with what little of the 56th Panzer Corps was then within the Berlin-U-Breton outer ring defense. During the attempted breakout on the night of the 1st to 2nd of May, a group of 9th stormed the Tower of Spandau routes the town hall, in which the Soviet machine guns decimated the German trying to escape out of Berlin. By the end of May the 2nd, the 9th Parachute Division has ceased to exist. So nothing much about the 9th Parachute Division, although it wasn't even a parachute division, it was straight outright a Luftwaffe either ground crews or pilots who were then forced to join the infantry. But that's it for the 9th Parachute. Let's move on. Next we have 6th Squadron of SG1, or Schlachtgeschwader 1. Schlachtgeschwader 1 was formed on the 13th of January 1942 at Weil near Dortmund. The command had 3 Messerschmitt Bf-109 E7s. Back then, Shield G1 completed training in April and was immediately assigned to the 4th Flieger Corps, 4th Air Corps under Luftflotilla 4, 4th Air Fleet. It departed for the front on the 2nd of May. It was then outfitted with Bf-109s from the same LG-2 group. It was then re-equipped with the Bf-109Es and Heinkel HS-123 biplanes. The Heinkel 13S was literally a blind biplane that carried a bomb. Literally, that's the best explanation. Second group of SLG, which is also known as SG, was formed in Enlisted on 13th of January 1942 and had 16 Heinkel HS-129 attack aircraft. For those that play War Thunder, this is literally called the Flying Duck. With some 3 HS-123 biplanes, all of SG's 123s were handed to the second group of May the 4th. And then it was operated semi-independently and then formed in command of Flieger Corps 8. Yeah, the history is not clear. SG-1 arrived in Crimea with the Bf-109 E7s in the first week of May of 1942. It did so that it could give the Luftwaffe close air support, and therefore Ju-87s were given to this unit. This unit, SG-1, were typically chosen for close air support. SG-1 supported the 11th Army under the command of Erich von Manstein in the Battle of the Krakow Pocket, also known as Operation Buzzard Hunt. On the 9th of May, it suffered the first casualty when a HS-129B1 was shot down by heavy guns. Nevertheless, the effects of supporting attacks against the Red Army infantry were immediately behind front, enabled German forces to break through. Seriously, what do you expect? The HS-129 is called the Flying Duck for a reason. Like, literally, these people. The Bf-109 fighters also engaged air-to-air combat, but that was not the wing's mission. It was to provide air support, while the HS-129s just blow up enemy tanks and infantry. On the 12th of May, the first group claimed the first enemy aircraft shot down in Moprov. Kiev fell on the Kilech fell on the 15th of May, and on the 9th of May, the 15th operational HS-129s claimed 40 Soviet aircraft destroyed on the ground. The vehicle scored outstanding success against Soviet airfields at the time. The HS-129s left 40 aircraft burning and supported the breakthrough of the 132nd Infantry Division, which approached the airfield. As the attack unfolded, the 132nd Infantry Division would then capture 30 Soviet fighters when they advanced to the motorized party when the motorized party overran the airfield. The wing was then sent north to assist the powerful Soviet spring offensive around Izium and Kharkov, which was known as the Second Battle of Kharkov. First and second groups were based in Konstantinov and were immediately engaged against the Soviet motorized and armored forces. The battle ended on the 28th of May. During the month, the wing flew 1,467 sorties, of which there were 1,028 Bf-109 missions, 259 by HS-123s, and 180 by HS-129s. SG1 supported the summer offensive Operation Blue, Operation Case Blue to be exact, which was launched on the 28th of June. This coincided in the Battle of Stalingrad, and the plan was to take the Caucasus. The distance caused logistical difficulties as the Panzergrenadier Division crossed Deutschland, and the 24th Panzer Division was trained in 2 days without supplies, and all supplies had to be flown in, while all German land forces were subjected to relentless air attacks. The Germans, considering what had happened earlier with destroying so many airfields, could not understand how the enemy could mount such an effort given how much damage SG1 has dealt. This was because the members of SG1 fabricated those claims. They claimed 20 aircraft were destroyed. In actuality, no more than 1 or 2 were actually badly destroyed or damaged, or straight outright destroyed. On the 20th of July, the wing had only 36 aircraft operational during the Battle of Donetsk and the Don River. The German-led armies reached Stalingrad on the Volga River. The wing was then involved in the subsequent Battle of Stalingrad. Air operations were continuous against the city, but were reduced during autumn. On 19th of November 1943, the Red Army began Operation Uranus. The offensive broke through the north and the south of the Axis lines around Stalingrad and encircled the German, Italian, Hungarian, Romanian armies in and around the city. The offensive caused chaos in the Luftwaffe airfields as combat units took off to either fight or retreat or do something in the face of the Soviet advanced units. The wing did contribute to the destruction of the Soviet 5th Tank Army, the 8th Cavalry Corps at Oblitskaya. On the 26th of November, the aircraft went into action as ground personnel manned trenches around the town. By the 1st of December 1943, it possessed 5 HS-129s, 10 Bf-109, and 11 HS-123s. The wing supported the failed Operation Winter Storm and assisted the Italian army in Russia to escape the destruction of the Soviet Operation Little Saturn. On the 16th and 17th of December 1943, SG-1 destroyed 10 Soviet tanks with 6 HS-129s shot down. Now these HS-129s were armed with the Mk-101 cannon. This is going to make it the actual Panzer Quacker. Within 3 days, the Italian lines had collapsed, and SG-1 second group was to abandon Millervov, along with HE-3, K-27 as the 18th Tank Corps approached. Second group in particular, flying around the Roscoe area of the 6th December, attacked Soviet armored spearheads attacking the 3rd Romanian, 8th Italian, and by the 22nd it was pushed back to Voroshilovgrad. During the year, 3 129 HS-129s, 1,500 1,500 H-123s, 1,900 Bf-109 sorties were flown. They claimed about 107 aircraft killed in aerial combat, 91 tanks destroyed, 1,354 vehicles knocked out, for the loss of 20 HS-129s, 16 Bf-109s, 5 HS-123s. From the 1st to the 16th of January 1943, it claimed another 13 tanks. Among those successes were a repulse of the 1st Guards Tank Army in Andrakov, near Merivol. On the 2nd of January 1943, these units were particularly good at tank busting. Therefore, in the first 10 days of February 1943, SG-1 then claimed about 2 enemy aircraft. The group later lasted until May, and the main contribution was the support of the Waffen-SS at the Third Battle of Kharkov, which allowed the Germans to recapture the city and Bielograd. In May, it was converted to Focke-Wulf 190s and in position in the Izium sector until July of 1943. Schraffel 4th Group fought until its withdrawal in Stalino on the January of 1943. It lost 2 HS-129s on the 27th and the 28th of December. It was re-equipped with the HS-129s B2s and then moved to Poltava until April. The unit was not afforded any rest and was sent straight into combat in southwest of the Rostov-Don and fought in the Taman Peninsula. At the Kuban bridgehead, the HS-129 returned to Germany to be refitted with Mk103 armor-piercing cannons. Yes, these guys had armor-piercing cannons on their planes, if you haven't realized by now. It was then sent back to Russia out of Rostov in preparation for the summer offensive. Which summer offensive, you may ask? Well, Operation Citadel, the Battle of Kursk, which began on the 5th of July. Actions for SG1 came on the second day, with the German 48th Panzer Corps, which was bogged down. The 2nd SS Panzer Corps was made more ground, with the 1st SS Leibgarde Adolf Hitler, the LAH, at the tip of the advance, meaning to make a counterattack against the 2nd Guards Tank Army, which supported JG-51s. SG1 and SG1 dived down upon the 2nd Guards Tank Army, and 2nd Guards Tank Corps, and literally bombed the heck out of them. That is the best explanation I can give you. They bombed the heck out of the 2nd Guards Tank Corps. It was so badly damaged that the 5th Guards Tank Corps carried out the second phase of the attack against LAH alone, and obviously which failed. Another attempt by the 2nd Guards Tank Army was made to attack the SS Division on the 8th of January, exactly with the same way without JG-51 this time. SG-1 just blasted the heck out of them. I say blasted and bombed, considering the fact that these were armed with SH-129s. The wing suffered heavy anti-aircraft fire, and most of its aircraft were most of its aircraft was at least hit. The 2nd Tank Corps lost 50 tanks to SG-1 and an unknown number of soldiers in exchange for 2 aircraft, 1 pilot, and of which 1 pilot was killed, 1 was wounded. With the 2nd Guards Tank Army removed from the line, 2nd Guards Tank Corps removed from the line to a second time, the 10th Guards Tank Corps, the 10th Tank Corps attacked the SS Corps alone and failed. SG-1 and the tank busting JG-51 played an important role at the Battle of Pokrovka, which is the biggest climactic battle in the Battle of Kursk. On the 12th of July, as the SS fought to a breakthrough, the 5th Guards Tank Army abandoned and advanced over 1.5 kilometers of open ground to meet the German forces. The Germans will literally just blast them out of the plane. The SS Panzer Corps directed SG-1's bombers to play a pretty effective role in the Soviet attack. A report from the 5th Guards Tank Army said, quote, "The enemy aircraft literally hung over us. The enemy aircraft literally hung above us, our combat positions throughout the entire battle. That said, end quote. That said, SG-1 lost 11 of the 19th aircraft destroyed by the Air Corps, including 5 HS-129s, which were lost to ground fire. The wing supported fruitless attacks in the southern sector until the 15th of July. On this date, the tank hunting groups 4, 5, and 8 and the tank hunting Strafum were ordered to Orel. Operation Kutuzov countered Citadel in the north and threatened to destroy the 9th Army, and therefore SG-1 was sent there. SG-1 hunting tanks were misused during the ensuing battle of Operation Kutuzov. Instead of attacking armored units, they were ordered to attack army units in the forest, and they were provide reconnaissance. The SG-1 flew 103 sorties, had attacked 19 tanks, 70 lorries destroyed, and from 14th to 15th, it lost 30% of all HS-129s. On 19th of July, HG-1 played an important role in the Luftwaffe to prevent the breakthrough at Orel. The 1st Tank Corps arrived in Konets in the evening of the 18th, but was spotted by reconnaissance. The following morning, SG-1 claimed 50 tanks without a loss. The Soviet 70th Tank Brigade, however, had severe rail line, which meant they had to retreat. During the case of the battle, this is not made up, airmen from SG-1 crash landed in the marsh, and when he got up, he saw apparently 80 Soviet tanks in camouflage. With his aircraft still working, he radioed his position, and voila, Focke-Wulf 190s bombed the heck out of the 70th Brigade. By the end of the day, SG-1 with Grenadier Division claimed 135 tanks, 66 of which were totally destroyed. The Soviets would acknowledge this destructive intervention by the Luftwaffe and remark that the 1st Tank Corps only had 33 tanks left by the following morning. SG's 1st Group has lost 8 Focke-Wulf 190s from the 8th of July to 2nd of April 1943, one of which were destroyed by anti-aircraft fire. Beginning on 4th of August, it fell back to Kanalsk and then Bryansk, and then by the September was fighting in northern Ukraine at Kharkov, near Brezhnev, until the latter's fall on the 15th of December. On the 4th day, SG1, first group of SG1 lost its commander, and on October, the Strafen lost the 2nd officer, and then, yeah, as you can tell, casualties were mounting. SG2 on the 2nd were supported the withdrawal. It fought from the Battle of Kharkov, which ended in the Soviet forces liberating the city, and from 4th to 8th, it pushed off the line and sent to Kiev against flying missions against Soviet spearheads heading for the Ukrainian capital. Accordingly, because of this day, the 14-day recuperation period, losses from September to October were light, because they were not literally in the air. 2 groups were reformed from 1st SG2 and became, 2nd group of SG2 became 5 and then later became 8. On the same day, 8 SG1 became 9 SG9. What in the world? It was then renamed 10 Panzer SG9 for anti-panzer roles. The designation caused SG1 to inherit Ju-87 dive bombers from STG1. The 1st group would operate them into 1945, and they were partly replaced with Focke-Wulf 190s. 2nd group began to replace the Ju-87 in July of 1944 with the Focke-Wulf 190, completed in the end of the month. 3rd group was completed conversion by May of 1944, and 1st and 3rd groups were replaced under the command of 1st Frigate Division, while the 2nd group of the 4th Frigate Division, all of these crazy stuff. In June of 1944, Operation Bagration began, which ended the collapse of the entire German front in the Soviet Union. To be exact, is the entire entire German front in Army Group Center. SG1 recorded the loss of 27 aircraft in July alone. Most of them were Ju-87s. On the 1st of July, it had 41 aircraft, and a month later, the force had fallen to 26. It was then retreated to Poland to fight against the Vistula-Oder offensive. The Flotilla 6 flew 140 sorties against the offensive, with the air fleet losing 8 aircraft every day, to be exact. In March of 1945, SG1 engaged in the attacks of the Oder bridges, and on the 8th of May, 16 Focke-Wulf 190s, which belonged to all units, attacked the Zainen Bridge, scored hits, but could not destroy it. Therefore, the Soviets would just roll across and made their attack of Berlin easier. At Grodstadt 2 and 3, SG1 breached the bridges at 3 places without any information at this point we can get a hold of, meaning that at this point, all military history and records of SG1 would hold. It is possible that it had participated in the Battle of Berlin, but that said, there have been rumors that some elements of the unit also were at North Africa, so go figure. But that said, that is all it for the very long history of SG1. Very long and very complex, even for me. So let's move on to the next one. Now before you leave, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I would be honored if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, more videos are coming out, so it is a good idea to click on that notification button. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.